Our new anime begins with our protagonist, An. Standing at the edge of a cliff, tired of the world and overwhelmed by despair, he decides to end his life, believing he is the weakest in existence. As he takes the fateful leap, we rewind to the past to understand how he arrived at this moment. An was once part of a party with two individuals, Zoid, a magician, and Jolene, a swordsman. Together, they descended into a dungeon to hunt monsters and earn money. The trio successfully defeated a giant rat, but the task of salvaging its valuable parts fell to An. As an appraiser, a low common class job, An was tasked with identifying and extracting useful materials. Zoid mockingly referred to An as a trash picker, a term commonly used to demean appraisers. In this world, one's status and future are determined at birth. The goddess of light grants individuals their job, while the goddess of darkness bestows their skills. While skills can be trained and leveled up, the assigned job is permanent and passed down through generations. The society is divided into three classes: rare classes like merchants and strategists, high common classes with combat roles, and low common classes, which include appraisers and farming-related jobs. An, born into a low common class family, lost his parents early in life and was unable to continue the family business. With no other options, he became an adventurer despite his appraiser status. Unlike combatants, appraisers were often looked down upon since their skills could be replicated by magic tools and guilds. This made An a target of ridicule and mistreatment, particularly by Zoid, who hired An specifically to avoid getting his own hands dirty. After defeating the giant rat, An noticed its tooth was valuable, but struggled to pry its mouth open. He asked Zoid for help, but Zoid sneered, insisting An do it himself. With no choice, An complied, enduring the insults and humiliation. However, deeper in the dungeon, they stumbled upon a dead hellhound. Zoid, elated by the potential loot, ordered An to extract its parts. An, however, found the situation suspicious. Finding a dead B-rank monster without any signs of battle was unusual. He tried to warn Zoid and Jolene, but they dismissed his concerns, threatening to withhold his share of the earnings if he didn't comply. Reluctantly, An obeyed, but as they ventured further, they found an entire horde of dead hellhounds. Zoid and Jolene celebrated their apparent luck, while An's instincts screamed that something was wrong. His suspicions were confirmed when the real perpetrator of the carnage emerged, a monstrous creature far beyond their capabilities. Chaos ensued as Zoid and Jolene attempted to fight, but swiftly realized they were outmatched. In desperation, Zoid ordered Jolene to cast a paralyzing spell on An, using him as bait to escape. Jolene complied without hesitation, and the treacherous duo fled, leaving An to face the horde alone. The monsters descended upon An, tearing into him as he lay paralyzed. The excruciating pain eventually broke the spell, and An managed to throw his bag forward, using its contents as a distraction to flee. However, his escape route was destroyed by the very couple who betrayed him. Left with no way back and monsters closing in, An found himself at a dead end, a sheer cliff before him, and death behind him. Overwhelmed by regret for his weakness and the cruel life he'd endured, An chose to leap off the cliff, embracing death on his own terms. As he fell, memories and regrets surged through him. However, instead of meeting his end, An awoke in a mysterious place. A beautiful girl appeared, gently kissed his forehead, and disappeared. When he fully regained consciousness, he found himself beneath the world tree, a colossal tree of legend. The tree was thought to have withered long ago, yet here it stood, vibrant and alive. Its water droplets, known to cure all diseases, poured down on An, healing him completely. Scholars had long theorized that the world tree still existed, as it was believed to be the source of the mana in the atmosphere. Though countless expeditions had sought it, none had succeeded, until now. An, overwhelmed with gratitude, thanked the tree for saving his life. He briefly thought he heard a voice, but dismissed it as his imagination. Realizing he couldn't stay forever, An resolved to find a way out of this uncharted territory. However, just a few steps into his journey, a sudden slash severed An's ear, followed by another attack that cut his fingers. He was ambushed by an S-class monster, a creature of immense power. The monster toyed with An, torturing him for its own amusement. As he lay helpless, the creature prepared to deliver the final blow, but before it could, a death bear, a monstrous predator, appeared and crushed the S-class monster in a brutal attack. The death bear then turned its attention to An, mauling and blinding him in a savage assault. Just as it was about to kill him, An was miraculously saved by an unknown figure at the mysterious girl's request. Once again, An awoke beneath the world tree, his body fully healed. This time, he finally saw the girl, a stunning and enigmatic elf who had been watching over him. Ian woke up again, this time finding the mysterious girl from before standing by his bedside. Her mother urged him to drink the tea her daughter had prepared. Before Ian could say a word, the woman insisted, stuffing the tea into his hands. It tasted good, which made the girl Yuri smile bright, though her mother, Ursula, looked far less pleased. Yuri introduced herself and explained that she had begged her mother to save Ian. When Ian thanked her, Yuri humbly refused to take the credit, but Ursula clarified that it was indeed her daughter's pleading that had moved her to act. Ian learned that Ursula was the guardian of one of the 9 world trees scattered across the land. She had raised Yuri, who was born from the tree itself, which explained Yuri's ethereal beauty. However, Ursula remained on edge, clearly disapproving of Ian getting close to her daughter. Then, Ian remembered his missing eye, which had been slashed by the death bear. Ursula explained that she had replaced it with a fragment of the world tree, again at Yuri's request. Ian asked Yuri why she had gone to such lengths for him, and she revealed that he was the first person who had ever thanked her for saving them. In the past, she had rescued others, only for them to harm her by taking branches from her tree fork. When Ian thanked Yuri again, Ursula impatiently declared it was time for him to leave. However, Ian's weakened state made it clear that he wouldn't survive. Despite this, Ursula was unmoved until Yuri pleaded with her, tears streaming down her face. Reluctantly, Ursula agreed to train Ian, stating that she would not tolerate any slacking. Training began immediately. Ursula led Ian to a dark, pitch-black dungeon and instructed him to use his new spirit eye, which was imbued with the World Tree's power. As Ian focused, he began to sense the power within the eye and could see clearly in the darkness. For the first stage of training, Ursula summoned a gremlin, instructing Ian to dodge its attacks. She explained that combining his spirit eye with his appraisal skill would sharpen his observational abilities to an extraordinary degree. At first, Ian struggled, but with repeated efforts and the healing properties of the World Tree droplet Yuri had given him, he began to improve. After a week of relentless practice, Ian mastered basic defensive techniques. Next came offense. Lacking combat skills, Ian was initially unsure how to proceed, but Ursula handed him a wooden sword crafted from one of Yuri's branches. She warned him not to break it. Ian's first attempts to counter the gremlin's attacks failed. However, with Ursula's guidance, he learned to use his spirit eye to observe the gremlin's movements in slow motion. This allowed him to land a decisive blow, defeating the creature and earning his first victory against the monster. But there were many more gremlins in the dungeon. Over time, Ian developed his skills, eventually learning to use his appraisal ability to copy the gremlin's unique techniques. The process was grueling, causing him immense pain, but the World Tree droplet allowed him to push through. Finally, Ursula decided Ian was ready for advanced training. She allowed him to copy her own powerful skill, Scar Incantation, which allowed spells to be cast instantly with just a thought. While Ian initially struggled to handle the immense power of the ability, he gradually adapted, training his magic reserves until they could sustain the skill. After a month of relentless training, Ursula deemed Ian ready to face the Death Bear once more. Ian was nervous, but Ursula's confidence in him gave him the courage to step forward. The battle was intense. Ian's initial attacks missed, and his spells barely scratched the beast. However, he combined his spirit eye and newly learned techniques, using close-quarters wind magic and relentless fireballs to wear the creature down. Though the fight was reckless and chaotic, Ian finally landed the decisive blow, bringing the Death Bear down for good. As the battle ended, Ian stood victorious, battered but proud of his growth. His journey was just beginning, and greater challenges awaited. And with that, our episode ends. Stay tuned for the next chapter of this thrilling anime. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive updates. Until next time, take care and see you soon. Ursula Navan was ready to leave, but as a pretty dick, Ursula asked Yuri to give him the spirit core of the World Tree. She had already infused one in his eye, and this second one held Yuri's power. Although Ian hesitated to accept, Ursula explained that once he died, the core would return to the World Tree. Reluctantly, Ian agreed, and the core was infused into his eye. But then something unexpected happened. Yuri suddenly vanished and reappeared inside his eye. The spirit core had created a link between Ian and the tree, allowing Yuri to stay with him as a companion. Excited, Yuri offered her healing powers to assist Ian. Unsure how Ursula felt about the situation, Ian watched as Ursula explained she had done this for Yuri, giving her the chance to experience the outside world. As another gift, Ursula etched a new mark on Ian's hand, which worked as a storage spell. She also provided materials to forge a powerful sword, but in a surprising twist, she stabbed it into Ian's eye, binding it to him. Lastly, Ursula handed Ian a Philosopher's Stone, which created a permanent link with her. Now, she could see everything Ian experienced, and warned him not to try anything with Yuri. Ian asked Yuri what she wished to do once they reached the surface. Yuri expressed her desire to see her family, explaining how the World Tree, once a single entity, had been split into 9 branches and hidden in various dungeons. Determined to make her wish come true, Ian took his first step outside. Guided by Ursula, Ian encountered a viper. He defeated it, and Yuri instantly healed him, sparing him the usual headaches from battles. Soon, Ian came across an ominous door, sensing it would lead to something dangerous. His instincts were correct. It was the dungeon's boss room. Inside, the dungeon itself revealed its dark nature. It consumed humans to sustain the boss, powered by a spirit core at its center. The fight was intense, with Ursula guiding Ian through every move. The boss landed a heavy blow, but Yuri's constant healing kept Ian in the fight. Using acid venom from a previous battle, Ian dissolved one of the boss's arms, throwing it into a frenzy. At this point, Ursula granted Ian permission to use an ultimate spell toggle, substitute blast, unleashing a massive fire blast that obliterated the boat, leaving nothing behind. The battle won. Ursula exalted the speed, looking as its similarity to the red tree core. She offered to use it to enhance Ian's powers, and he agreed. With the core's infusion, Ian's eye evolved into the Spirit God Eye, capable of further leveling up by absorbing labyrinth cores. The dungeon sealed itself, ensuring no one could reach the World Tree again, allowing Yuri to live in peace. Finally, Ian and Yuri stepped into the outside world. Meanwhile, in a tavern, Zoid entertained the crowd with a dramatic tale of how he heroically sacrificed himself as bait to save Ian. However, Ian arrived just in time to expose Zoid's lies. Furious, Zoid claimed Ian couldn't have survived, but the crowd noticed Zoid's rage seemed out of place. Ian revealed how Zoid and Jolene had paralyzed him and left him for dead. The crowd turned against Zoid, but Ian stopped. He acknowledged that if Zoid hadn't abandoned him, he never would have met Yuri and Ursula. Thanking Zoid, Ian left the tavern. Ian soon ventured into another dungeon and acquired its core to level up his army. Though there was no sign of a world tree, Ursula accepted this, understanding that finding the world tree wouldn't be easy. Yuri remained hopeful. During their journey, they heard a woman's voice rushed out. Monsters were attacking a group of survivors. Ian and Yuri saved everyone still alive, but one of them, a young woman named Claudia, instantly fell for Ian. Embarrassed, Ian asked her companion Jasper to intervene, only to learn he wasn't her brother. Jasper introduced himself as the head of J Trading Company, and Claudia revealed herself as the third princess of the kingdom. Grateful for their rescue, Jasper invited Ian and Yuri to his manor. Claudia, still smitten, boldly declared her interest in Ian. To deter her, Yuri claimed to be Ian's wife, but Claudia wasn't discouraged, suggesting she could become his second. While Yuri was flustered, Ursula found Claudia amusing, thinking she'd made a new friend. At the manor, Jasper revealed his true intentions. He recognized the spirit core in Ian's eye and recounted the legend of the World Tree's power, which was used to seal away the demon. Jasper wanted the spirit core to protect it in his collection. Though Ursula considered the idea, Ian refused. Instead, they decided to remain friends. Before parting, Ian asked Jasper about other spirit cores. Jasper shared what he knew, but the location he revealed was highly dangerous. With their next destination set, Ian and Yuri prepared for the journey ahead. Ian hurried over, knowing that Yuri's sister could be here. Since Yuri is a world tree, that meant the other world trees were her siblings. However, he quickly hit a dead end. Ursula, unfazed, told him to touch the wall. It was actually a gateway into the dungeon. The dungeon had its own atmosphere, but Ursula immediately saw through it. It was just a high-level illusion, though an incredibly massive. Meanwhile, Yuri's sister Pina had already noticed their arrival. Yuri was eager to meet Pina immediately, but Pina, being her usual mischievous self, insisted they reach her by making their way to the end of the dungeon. She claimed she couldn't leave her place, so they had to come to her instead. The only issue? Pina had personally set up countless traps throughout the dungeon. It was a dangerous path, and she was particularly worried about Yuri's boyfriend. Yuri blushed at this, but Ian was more than ready for the challenge. Confident in her traps, Pina took a front row seat, fully expecting to enjoy the show. However, Ursula warned Ian about the dangers ahead, and he decided to speedrun Pina's trap game. To Pina's horror, Ian blazed an angry act to go with him. Pina, watching helplessly, pouted as all her hard work was destroyed in an instant. Yuri still believed her sister was just doing playful. So no actual life-threatening danger. Just then, an S-rank monster appeared, attempting to knock them out with sleeping gas. Unfortunately for the beast, Ian had a resistance skill, rendering the gas useless. Then, he was suddenly attacked out of nowhere. An enemy using stealth, but Ian also had an ambush nullification skill. On top of that, he had fortress mode active, making him practically invincible. Pina was still convinced her stealth monsters wouldn't be detected, but Ursula had already pinpointed their locations. Ian took them down effortlessly, even copying their skills and princess. They died instantly. Realizing there was no stopping Ian, Pina slumped in defeat. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the same dungeon, Zoid, the notorious backstabber, was fuming. Ian had survived and exposed his betrayal to everyone, ruining his reputation, making things worse. Jolene, his fine partner, played the victim. Claiming Zoid had forced her to paralyze them. As a result, all the blame fell squarely on Zoid. Desperate to redeem himself, Zoid took on an S-rank monster hunt mission, hoping a big victory would restore his stand. Unfortunately, he immediately fell into a spike trap and was thrown out of the dungeon. But Zoid refused to get him. He could see. Eventually he sticked. Crocodile-like monster was way out of his lane. Lena, his companion, told him to just give up. But even after the monster crushed his hand, Zoid refused to surrender. That's when Ian showed up. In a single swing, Ian effortlessly killed the monster. Zoid was in shock. Ian, however, simply healed Zoid, knocking him unconscious and asking Pina to eject him from the dungeon. Finally, Ian and his team reached the boss chamber. The only way to meet Pina was by defeating the found boss. However, defeating it would also seal off the world tree. Ursula reassured Ian that as long as the dungeon core remained intact, they wouldn't have any issues. Upon entering the chamber, Ian quickly realized something. The ground beneath them was the boss. They were standing on top of a massive turtle. Ian launched a fire spell at it, but it had no effect. The turtle counterattacked, but Ian fought back. Still, nothing seemed to be working. Then, Ian noticed some fireballs and water balls were hitting random spots in the room. Realizing the trick, he stood directly beneath the boss, waiting for it to attack. The moment it tried to crush him, he saw through the deception. Just an illusion. Dispersing the illusion, he finally saw the boss's real form. A tiny, adorable turtle. For once, Ian had defeated an enemy entirely on his own. However, upon using his appraisal skill, Ursula noticed something odd about the creature. But before she could say anything, Ian found himself unable to attack it. It just looked too cute and innocent. Instead of killing it, Ayn turned to Pina and emotionally guilt-tripped her into surrender. Defeated, Pina finally opened the door to her home, reuniting with Yuri. After hundreds of years, Pina, of course, couldn't help but tease Yuri about having a crush on Ayn. Yuri, too easy to read, was flustered, but deep down she was overjoyed to see her sister again. Then Pina asked if she could tag along with Yuri. Happily agreed, and Ayn had no objections. Suddenly, the baby turtle transformed into a woman, Kuro, Pina's guardian. The moment Ursula saw her, she became visibly nervous. The most polite Ayn had ever seen her. Ayn asked Kuro for permission to take Pina with. Surprisingly, Kuro had no objections, but in return, she wished to join them as well. She handed over her Philosopher's Stone, revealing that she possessed the barrier skill. Ayn was more than happy to have her own being. As a final gift, Ayn absorbed Pina's spirit core, leveling up his eye ability once again. Yuri was delighted, and even Ursula thanked him. With Pina now part of the team, they had 6 more sisters to find. But for now, their journey continued. Episode 4 ends here. Stay tuned for the next episode, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit.
The anime begins in Japan, with an orphan boy named Kazuya, who was on his way to a convenience store to get a meal for himself when he saw a thug about to attack 2 girls. Without hesitation, he jumped in to save them, and in the process, he got stabbed by the thug and died. At least, before his final breath, he was happy knowing he saved the 2 girls behind him. With that, he opened his eyes in a whole new world as a 3-year-old boy named Kane. Naturally, Kane freaked out upon seeing himself as a completely different person, but his mother, Sylvia, thought it was a normal reaction since Kane had been unconscious for a week. That was why she and others left to bring some soup for him. Left alone for a moment, Kane was able to piece together the situation, that he had been reincarnated after saving those girls. While checking himself out in disbelief, Sylvia returned and, misinterpreting the situation, thought Kane needed a nappy change. After that, he got many answers.